Welcome, everybody, to the Friar Talk podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping the Rangers series, previewing the Pirates series, and then talking about Victor Caratini potentially being the starting catcher, and then also the Adrian Morejon injury, and talk about the impacts of that. But let's start out with first off, Joe Musgrove. He did the no-hitter, and the Padres, the whole franchise has kind of been waiting for that moment for a long time. And I think that's just a really, really fantastic way to start this season. We had a whole quick little episode on it earlier, but I just want to say that that was pretty fantastic that happened within the first 10 games of this season, because this is the most I think this is the most anticipated Padres season in quite some time, in my lifetime for sure. And so that's just what a way to start it off. So props to Joe Musgrove for doing that. We're going to talk a lot about him, and I guess we can start out with him. I just want to know what you guys think about this possibility. If he's slated to pitch against the Pirates, if he goes out there, dominates against the Pirates, and then has a couple more dominant series, do you guys think that he's the early favorite to win the Cy Young? And Chase, started off for me.
Yeah, I would say that he is. Right now, he currently leads the MLB with like 15 innings pitched, and he has a 0 ERA, which is like tied. I know there's a couple other pitchers that have it, but if he continues to go out there and just continues to build off of what he does, maybe gives up a run or two in like the next 2 or 3 outings, but still continues to go like 6 to 8 innings, because going a full game is really hard, especially with Taylor's pull happy bullpen. So yeah, if he continues to go 6+ innings with one or fewer earned runs, I'd say he's the favorite to win Cy Young this year, as long as he keeps his strikeouts up, because sometimes that's a deciding factor.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be people who think we might be jumping the gun, but I mean, this is the expectation we have out of Joe Musgrove. He's a really solid pitcher. We've said it time and time again. Whenever you leave Pittsburgh, you're probably going to succeed because, I mean, everyone sucks in Pittsburgh. But this is just the expectation we have for Joe Musgrove. If he goes and balls out against the Pirates, I hope they only throw him for like 5 innings, because he did have a lot of pitches in the no-no. But if he faces the Dodgers, there's one guy I want to beat the Dodgers real bad. It's him, because, like we mentioned in our Musgrove video, he grew up hating the Dodgers. And, so Joe Musgrove, if he keeps this up, he could be an early Cy Young candidate. We see DeGrom is striking out 14 people and still losing, unfortunately. Poor guy. But, no, Joe is a guy we expect to keep this up.
Yeah, no, it's been really extraordinary how well he started out. And then looking at some other stuff, like when you start talking about him winning a Cy Young, like it's definitely really early. But if he continues to perform, I think there's got to be a chance. And it's definitely really early. But I think that we all think that he has nasty stuff. Also, I know there's some Pirates fans that were listening to a previous episode about Joe Musgrove. And it is unfortunate that when people leave Pittsburgh, it seems like they get a lot better. But that's just been the pattern recently. So if that continues, I mean, you got to expect that Joe Musgrove is going to just develop into a very, very good player, because he has the stuff to do it, I think. And that's what we all believed. And that's why we thought it was such an underrated move of bringing him over. But I guess one of the things that we kind of weren't really projecting this year is the bullpen, because I feel like we all three thought that was the weakest aspect of the game. If you're just breaking it down, starting pitching, relief pitching, and hitting, like the hitting side of it, we thought was probably the strength. And then the starters, we thought were the strength too. And there's been a few injuries and some stuff going down. Paddock hasn't looked really great. Even Darvish struggled in the opener. So it just hasn't been like super dominant on that side. But the bullpen has a .84 ERA. And if you doubled that, it would still be the best in the league. So what do you guys think about the bullpen? I just think it's kind of been absurd how good they've been.
Yeah, we all kind of know that they had the potential to be really great, and it wasn't until they signed a couple guys who were like, you know what, this could be the best bullpen in baseball, and they're currently living up to the title. Like, I think there's maybe 2 guys that have an ERA over 0, and I mean there should be one more, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But yeah, the bullpen is completely blown our expectations out of the water.
Yeah, how about our guy Craig Stammen coming in today and throwing 3 scoreless? We give that guy a hard time, but he came in today, and especially like in something so unexpected in terms of like a Morejon injury where he didn't even really get much time to warm up, and he threw 3 or I think it was 3 great scoreless innings, and The whole bullpen held it down throughout the whole game. They got themselves into a couple jams, but it was great to see them get out of it. I think the best one was Pagan. He got himself into a bases loaded jam and he got out of it. So that's the kind of things we want to see out of the bullpen, getting our starters or themselves out of jams. And that's definitely what we've seen so far.
Another guy that you didn't mention there was Taylor Williams, who I don't think we weren't even expecting him to make the roster. Because who is the guy that we thought was going to make the roster over him? Younger guy.
Nair.
Yeah, Reese Neer. We thought he was going to make the roster, and we thought that would make more sense. And Taylor Williams made the roster, and we're like, okay, that was the only guy that we didn't think was going to make it. Let's see how he does. He's been fantastic. He has a 0 ERA as well, and he's looked really, really good. So, also we got to see Austin Adams today. So he looked really good. Like we've got to see some of these guys. We haven't got to see Pierce Johnson. We haven't got to see Pierce Johnson yet, so that's another guy. And just everyone's been really, really fantastic. I think the other big aspect of this game was something that we were super excited for. We even dropped an episode solely for him and Trent Grisham, which, I mean, we all love Trent Grisham a lot. We think he is a fantastic player. And I was talking to you today earlier, Isaac, and we were saying that we both think he's a building block of the future. And I really do believe that. I think that there's a handful of guys that this team's really trying to build around. And this is probably going to be an episode down the road just because it's so interesting. And when you get closer to the trade deadline, you want to know who's a movable guy, who's not. I don't think Trent Grisham is a movable player right now. Like, I don't think there's any chance. Like, he's in their plans and he's in their long-term plans right now, I believe. But what do you guys think about his performance? And did you expect it?
So I kind of expected him to come out of the gate a little hot, but I didn't expect him, kind of carrying the Padres on his own. We probably won 2 of the 3 games just because Grisham decided to hit home runs in the right times. He was able to, get his, drag bunt singles in. He tried a couple of times, got one down. His 2 home runs in the last 2 games have been clutch. One was, I think both of them were go-ahead home runs. One was a 2-run shot, then the other one was a solo shot in a game. And the other one didn't come until the 9th inning. So, that one home run was a big difference in that game. So, yeah, Grisham sort of is carrying the Padres right now. It's something that we needed.
Yeah, and I noticed, there's quite a bit of differing opinions when it comes to Trent Grisham. Us three all love him, but I know there's some people that hate how much he strikes out or how inconsistent he can be. And, like, it's just, we don't need him to be that super consistent player. He can be that boomer bust player because that boomer bust player is single-handedly going to win us some games. And that's really what we want from Trent Grisham, other than that one mishap in center field. He always looks like a gold glove center fielder, and he always, just looks like a great ball player, good on the base path, great hitter. He hits bombs, and this is what we expected from Trent Grisham. We've said before he can be a star in this league.
I know. I think he's one of the most exciting players on the team for sure. And he's had a few little mistakes in the outfield in his career, but it's going to improve. He's still a young player. He's still going to get to play center field more. And the fact that he won a gold glove in center field last year, I definitely feel like he earned it. Like, you kind of look back and you go, wow, he did a fantastic job playing center field. Like, he looked really, really good. And that was one of the question marks coming in with the Padres roster was like, who's going to be the center fielder? Is it really going to be Trent Grisham? Can he even do that? And then he won the gold glove. So the talent is definitely there. It's all around. The biggest kind of like issue with him is like, oh, he hits like 240 to 260. If that just slightly improved, he would be looked at completely differently, I believe, because he has the power, he has the speed, and he won a gold glove at, 24, 25 years old? Like, he's super young. He's a 5-tool player potentially if he can hit for a little bit better average. So I guess that's the one tool that's missing, but fantastic start of the weekend for him. And he definitely brought like just a lot of energy, which was really cool to see. Another boomer bust player though, Machado, just wanted to bring him up, got ejected. Then the first 3 at-bats today, struggling, getting called out on a very, very questionable call. Can't believe that was called a third strike. But then he hits a bomb in the 9th inning and kind of solidifies the Padres win, I think, with that home run, which was great to see. If that's like the thing that gets him going, sweet. If not, there's no reason to worry. Like, I think we've established that Manny Machado is a superstar. And we've seen him how he plays. Pretty solid. And then he can single-handedly will the Padres to a whole series win on his own when he gets going. Like, that's what happens. Like, there are sweeps because Manny Machado is so on that every time he comes up, it seems like he's driving guys in, where he's hitting 600 for like a week or 2 weeks, and he does this stuff. And that's just how he's been throughout his career. So I'm not really concerned about these boomer bust guys because there's also like a lot of players that are pretty solid and pretty consistent mixed in with the lineup, like the Fernando Tatises. There's a lot of guys like that, Jake Cronenworth. So you just have a lot of diversity in this lineup, which I like a lot, and a lot of different kind of bats and guys that bring different things to the table. And I think that's why we see him then just so successful and actually getting wins with it. The only kind of like big question, I guess, you could talk about Ha-seong Kim, but I think we all are pretty comfortable with how he's going to play out. It's just going to be some like growth spurts, I guess, of like adjusting to the speed. But the only guy that hasn't been is Tommy Pham, and I'll let you start this one, Isaac, because I think you're a Tommy Pham hater at this point. I think that's how people feel about your takes on him. But my question for you is, should we be patient with Tommy Pham still?
Yeah, I don't like the guy, but I'm going to be patient. He does have a pretty high barrel rate percentage, and there are some hits that they're just not falling. But there's one play I really want to emphasize, and I think we all have the same opinion on it. Chris Paddock is pitching, and we know he gets lit up all the time anyway. So there's a ball hit down the left field line, kind of close to the left field line, and I see him jogging to it, and he like slowly picks it up, and it goes from a double to a triple. I don't think my hate for Tommy Pham was worse at any point last year or this year so far. It was pretty bad. Grounded out into like 2 double plays, but I'm gonna be patient. He does get on a lot. He used to get on a lot at least. And his barrel rate percentage shows that there's gonna be some improvement. So we just gotta hope at this point that he does improve, because if not, left field is gonna be a big hole to fill. But luckily Profar can fill that hole like he showed last year.
I was gonna say, I do think he can fill that hole. It's really frustrating to watch him struggle. I mean, like, man, it seemed every at bat he seemed to barrel one. It was just a warning track, and it was like warning track to all fields. Like, okay, wow, he nailed this one to center. What if he can just do that to left field, and he'll hit it to left field, and you're like, it stopped at the wall. What the hell? It's just he barrels these, but it's just short every single time, and it's really frustrating to watch. So thank God we signed Profar in the offseason, because he's been hitting the ball like crazy, and he can play left field too. Oh, and I just wanted to say congrats to Ha-seong Kim on his first MLB home run, because I don't think any of us have said that. That was an absolute shot. Great to see.
That was definitely super exciting, and you saw the whole dugout get excited and give him the silent treatment and stuff, which was always cool to see. I'm really excited for Ha-seong Kim, by the way, because I think that he is going to have a really good second half of the year. But Tommy Pham, it's getting to the point where it's getting hard to be patient. I still definitely think we have to be, but it's definitely getting tough because it's just like we haven't seen it out of him. But the final guy I kind of want to talk about a little bit is Chris Paddock. And I thought, he had the rough second inning, but he looked pretty solid like before that. And then, of course, he gets pulled out and he looks like he's pouting in the dugout. So that did not help like how his outing looked, I feel like. Like it just left like a sour taste in your mouth almost, just seeing him like pouting in the dugout, which was really weird. But I got to ask you, Chase, you had an interesting comp for Chris Paddock. So you want to tell everyone what that is?
So I said he's kind of like a chihuahua. He's kind of like all bark until, he gets backed into a corner of a game, and he just seems to like tremble in fear and can't get out of it. It's like, oh my God, he gives up a double and then it just doesn't end. The Tommy Pham, walking to a ball practically doesn't help, but he still would have given up 3 runs that inning no matter what. Time and time again, we have seen him, wow, he looks really solid the first inning, but the moment someone gets on and kind of challenges him, he seems to crumble under the weight of the pressure like a chihuahua would if he was backed into a corner. So that's my comparison.
Yeah, and I think out of us three, unreasonably, I've been probably the most optimistic about Paddock, because I've just wanted him to succeed real bad. Ever since I saw him in 2019, I was just like, wow, this is like. It took a long time for me to see a pitcher like that actually had the potential that Chris Paddock had in a Padres uniform. But that outing, it was tough to see him go that one inning, because like he let up a hit and then it was just a never-ending cycle. He barely got out of it. And I guess the biggest problem throughout these last 2 starts was, or 2 or 3? 2. Okay. The biggest problem was that he just like his pitch count just goes up and up because he doesn't have that pitch that can strike anyone out. And that's going to be his biggest issue. So far, it just looks like Paddock is going to be that guy who's going to give you 3 or 4 innings, kind of like the way we had those bullpen days last year, where we had Morejon go 3 or 4. It seems like Paddock is kind of destined for that role because if he gets to the second or the third go around of the lineup, he's going to get rocked. Hopefully that can change, but it's very hard to see Chris Paddock as anything more than what I just said.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. And that's it's just been frustrating to see how he's been. We're going to talk about him a little bit when we're previewing the Pirates series because he is expected to pitch in that series on Thursday, I think. Yeah, Thursday. So we'll talk a little bit more about him and kind of like where he's at as well. But that's going to wrap it up for the recap segment. If you're listening on YouTube and you want to check out the podcast, it's going to be in the description. And then if you're listening on podcast, just keep listening. We're going to go through the preview here in a second.